Yo, what is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody is good. I'm always awesome. Thursday Night Football concluded in the books with a little rigged missed field goal. Y'all know what I'm talking about. What is that? Aubrey's probably one of the best kickers in the league, and I mean, the spread's on the line, and he shanks it? I don't think so. What are we talking today? Boom or bust? We're talking players for week number 4. Who's going to boom? Who's going to bust? I got my predictions for y'all, and I mean, it was kind of even last week at about a 55 percentile on who boomed, who bust. The NFL is very weird this year. Lack of points, lack of productivity, injuries, refs being too involved. But let's get on the good notes here. Running backs, Javonte Williams, Denver Broncos taking on these New York Jets. And I mean, okay, even though the Broncos, they managed to perform a miracle last week. Let's not get it twisted. But, don't let the recency bias convince you to play, this back-to-back weeks. And, while, I'm still a Javonte supporter, I just can't do it this season until we see way more production. Vontae's only got, 15.9 points in 3 games. No booms just yet. And, okay, Bo did look better last week. Let's give him some flowers. But I'm not buying the hype just yet, man. Just off of, the Tampa Bay upset, I'm not there yet, and I don't think I'm going to be for quite some time. Calling a bust for a Vontae. The games on the bus continue for this running back. Chuba Hubbard versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, and all it took was the benching of Bryce Young to get these players back to relevance last week. Deontay, Chuba, they both look great. And okay, the Raiders, the head coach said the players made business decisions this week facing the 0-3 Bengals squad. Bengals are absolutely desperate. The Panthers should continue to lean on the ground game, and maybe they install little Xavier Legette now that an Adam Thielen is out with an injury on IR. Chuba looked great last week, and I'm telling you, a lot of y'all dropped him on the waiver wire. He was at a 50% clip ownership rate. Now we can actually install him back into our lineups with an Andy Dalton coming off the waiver. Boom for a Chuba Hubbard. James Conner taking on the Washington Commanders, the Commies. Okay, coming off his worst performance of the season thus far, the Cards definitely did not look explosive and seemingly kind of abandoned that run game last week, which was somewhat surprising for me, but you can't blame them. The Lions do have one of the best run-stuffing defenses in the entire league, led by Aiden Hutchinson, who is a grown-ass man taking on these Commies. This team is picking up steam, man. Jaden Daniels looks good. This offense is moving in the right direction, but there are gaping holes in stopping the ground game for this defense as well. The Cards want to be taken for real, get back to the ground and pound, run the football with James Conner. This is a big game for them. Back to boom for a James Conner. Tony Pollard taking on the Miami Dolphins, and at this point, we don't know what to expect from Mr. Will Levis making highlight reel mistakes on a weekly basis. It did impact Pollard last week after 2 boom games early on. With that said, it's a great shot for a bounce back versus the Finns, who, they look even worse without Tua behind center. It is not a good situation in Miami whatsoever. Lean on that ground game. Help a Will Levis out. Act normal like a normal human being does, Will. I don't know what you're doing. All jokes aside, but for real, lean on Tony for the first 2 weeks. It looked good, and it was able to at least move this offense back to business is booming for a Tony Pollard this week. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams taking on the Cleveland Brownies. Yes, he did pop up on the injury report, but if you guys went back to my draft report on a Devontae Adams, the fear was, could he be supported on a weekly basis from a Gardner Minshew? That was my biggest concern, and so far we're seeing what it is. Having only 1 boom game in the first 3 weeks, the Busts have only given us a meek, 8+ points in those contests, and it's much like last season. When the booms come, they come with the thunder, but facing a Browns team, they're very schizophrenic as well. Adams could be a massive bounce-back player this week, and if you saw the presser from the head coach Pierce, he's going to make some business decisions, and I think one of those is force-feeding a Devontae Adams on the regular, and it should come to a boom for a second time for a Devontae Adams. Jameson Williams taking on the Seattle Seahawks, and starting the year off with a bang. Jamo's integration into this offense was absolutely gorgeous, having back-to-back booms to start it off. He was given the rest week last week. He only hit less than 1 point. I think it was 0.9 half PBR points. Absolutely crippled y'all if you played him. Facing the undefeated Hawks, I mean, they've played fairly well so far. The Lions, they also need to stretch the field versus young secondary. They got Witherspoon, who can definitely keep up with the speed of a JMO, and I mean, it's absolutely going to be one of these matchups I'm going to be watching with peeled eyes. Keep the defense honest with a deep, threat of a JMO, and it could result in some TD upside with Sam Laporta also dealing with an ankle injury. And, I mean, his role could be a little bit, haircutted this week as well. Another boom should be coming for a JMO. Brandon Ayuk taking on these New England Patriots. Well, it's no shock to me that Ayuk is trending in the doghouse in the wrong direction at this point. I mean, after missing all of camp with that contract dispute, I mean, shaking off the rust is harder than it looks for some, and Ayuk right now is not looking good, man. After watching Juwan Jennings hit that 40-plus points last week, assume it's Ayuk week. You can believe it is. Debo's back on the practice field as well. But for me, I mean, Brandon is likely going to see a heavier heaping of a Gonzalez Gonzo from these New England Patriots, who has done very well covering the top-end wide receivers. He is a fantastic cover corner, and Shanahan is going to get creative eventually to move Ayuk around, get him open space, get him to break out. But again, for me, I think it's going to be a very close bust, around 8 to 9 points this week, potentially for an Ayuk. I get it. If you got no better options, you got to play him. But I could definitely caution it with a bust this week. Big Mike Evans taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, starting off the season with a bang, man. Mike got, 20-plus points in week 1, and then since then he's played second fiddle to the run game and a Chris Godwin. Facing these Eagles, I mean, they got issues on their own team right now with injuries, issues on the defensive side, and I mean, the injuries on the offensive side could mean more offensive possessions forthcoming for Baker and a Mike Evans as well, scoring less than 10 points in the last 2 weeks, coming off a terrible loss to the Broncos. I mean, this is not good news for a Mike Evans and Mike Evans owners. I completely understand why you're skittish on a Mike Evans, but I've got a big feeling like a phoenix rising from the sun. We're going to see him get back to basics. Baker's going to feed this man on the regular, and I think it's going to be right back to where it should be. Move this offense. Losing to the Broncos, and you didn't even use Mike that much. I get it. It was Pat Surtain covering him, but it's back to boom for a big Mike this week. Tight end time. Travis Kelce taking on these Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, and I think we can all agree Travis Kelce has seen better days. I mean, is it part of the scheme using Kelce as kind of the decoy at this point, or is it truly a decline that we're watching in real time? And I'm kind of going with the latter at this point. I still think there's lots left in the tank for a playoff run for Travis Kelce, but it's just like last year where they did nickel and dime him from time to time. His role just completely is nil and void this week. But, I mean, the Chiefs have the fortitude of luck getting on their side to 3-0 without using a Travis Kelce. And, I mean, he swifted his way out of 3 boom games already. You see what I did there, but, I mean, whatever. It's lame, I know. But I'm telling y'all right now, taking on these LA Chargers, he plays typically very well versus them. He went on his podcast himself saying, I don't really care as long as we're winning, but it stings just a little bit. And you got to believe, I mean, with the injuries at the running back position, I mean, they're trying to, maybe Kareem Hunt gets into the mix as well. I think the Chargers, if they are without a Justin Herbie, Mahomes should be able to look to old reliable in bunches to a Travis Kelce. Man, if he does not get into the end zone this week, this is a big concern for all y'all Travis Kelce owners. I feel for you. I got shares as well, and it does not look good, but I'm going to play for the boom this week. 1 out of 4, man. You got to say 25% boom rate is not good, but I'm telling y'all it's got to come sometime. Likewise, with a Mark Andrews taking on my Buffalo Bills. And okay, while I'm always the first to take a victory lap when I hit on players, I will equally be fair and say when I missed, and I totally missed on Mark Andrews this offseason when it comes to his ADP to ROI. Definitely was one of my top tight ends coming into the draft process, like a lot of y'all did as well. I mean, but why else would we think otherwise? Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. That was supposed to be the offensive MO this year in Baltimore, has not come to fruition. And, I mean, believing that the Ravens would get back to this stud pass-catching tight end at some point, I mean, it it's just foolish. I don't have an explanation. What do you do with a Mark Andrews at this point? It is very peculiar. He had 20% of the snap count last week. This is not going to get it done, and it's not like Isaiah Likely had a boom game himself either, so it's not like they're even utilizing the tight end position. Baltimore needs to get back to the ground game like they did with Derrick Henry last week as well, and then continue to use the play-action pass. Why are you not using it with your tight ends? I don't understand. One of the lowest stat lines in his entire career. No booms, limited stats equals absolute trash shoot. And I mean, what else can I say? Bust coming again for a Mark Andrews versus the Buffalo Bills, who are rolling in the right direction. Hunter Henry taking on the 49ers. What was my advice last week? Because I know a Hunter Henry's pass very, very well. Don't overspend $5 on him and do not start him. It is typically faded completely out of the scheme the week after he does go for a boom. And it did exactly happen that way as well. We should see the Pats come off a better week this week. Extra rest coming off that Thursday Night Football contest with the New York Jets. And I mean, taking it off the chin with these Jets. I mean, you know they're going to be able to play the Niners, who are hampered with injuries as well. But we still know the 49ers on the worst day still have a better defense and can stop a Jacoby Brissett and company. But I mean, 49ers, dropping big leads to the LA Rams. This could be part of the new MO in San Francisco as well. They do give up a lot of points. So, I mean, Henry in garbage time, potentially utilized as that safety blanket, especially if Ramondre does not get running. I'm going to call a boom for a Hunter Henry. Last one is Noah Fant, Detroit Lions, taking on the Detroit Lions, I should say. And I mean, I want to believe that, this will happen again, but it won't happen again very soon. Noah Fant is a good tight end, but simply just too many mouths to feed in Seattle, and they seemingly do this every single week. It's Tyler Lockett week. It's JSN week. DK's always the one that eats every single week, so it doesn't matter about him. But then it's Tyler Lockett. It's JSN. And then, okay, we sprinkle in a little Noah Fant 1 out of 5 weeks. Typically how his role does go in Seattle, and they switch it up quite a bit. This week, you got to believe it is JSN week, and Tyler Lockett will still get his sprinkles, but Fant won't get near enough to get it back to what he was last week of, over 9 points. He'll get his catches from time to time, but he is a 25% to lower hit rate, boom rate, whenever he does boom as well. So, the Hawks need to keep Fant on the line to keep blocking against this Detroit Lion pass rush that will be bringing the bum rush versus a Geno. I'm calling a bust for a Noah Fant. Do not let recency bias cloud you on this one as well. But there you have it. That is week number 4. Boomer bust, who I'm predicting this week. And we'll see how it does go. Thursday Night Football gave us some good booms as well. And I got starts it for you guys on Saturday. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.